call this meeting of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee to order at 6:30 p.m. Due notice having been posted. Let the record show that this meeting is being electronically recorded. And if anyone in the audience also wishes to record this meeting, you should notify the committee at this time. Any such recording may be subject to reasonable restrictions imposed by the chair to the extent permitted under the open meeting law. Roll call. Mrs. Gagliardi? Here. Mr. Ghilarducci? Here. Mrs. Field? Here. Mr. Botello? Here. And the chair is present. Mrs. Rothwell is at the field hockey game this evening with the superintendent and the high school principal. And Mr. Larrabee may be joining us a little later. Also with us this evening is the Director of Business and Finance, Lindsay Albanaz, our Director of Curriculum, Elizabeth Haskell, and our Recording Secretary, Robin Vaccaro. I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I just noticed that our student representative, Ryan Silverman, joined us, so welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
The next scheduled...
Mr. Larrabee is on his way.
Okay. The next scheduled meeting of the committee will be on Thursday, December 13th at the Somerset Berkley Regional High School Library beginning at 6:30 p.m. The first item we have on the agenda this evening is to welcome the Blue Raider Marching Band. So, Mr. Marshall.
Thank you very much. And you remember from my packet that I try to condense things. So I just have a few words. So on behalf of the students, the staff, the friends and family and supporters of the Somerset Berkley Regional High School Blue Raider Marching Band, I want to thank you all, administration and school committee members, for your continued support of not only the marching band, but the entire fine and performing arts programs here at Somerset Berkley Regional High School. Your leadership and support affords the students at Somerset Berkley Regional High School a plethora of opportunities to succeed and achieve inside and outside of the classroom. The band has built a great tradition of excellence over the past few years, which has been rewarded by their 5 consecutive seasons finishing at the top 5 of the U.S. Band's Division 1A National Championships. In that time, but not including this season, the band has won a national championship in 2015, a National Esprit de Corps Award, 2 National Cadets Awards of Excellence, 2 state championships, and countless state and national caption awards for Best Percussion, Best Color Guard, Best Visual Effect, Best Music, and Best Overall Effect. This season, with a group of talented upperclassmen and a large group of first-time members with tons of potential, they raised the bar even higher for future groups with their accomplishments. The band finished the U.S. Band's regular season undefeated, which put them in a position of being seeded #1 in Division 1A for both the New England Championships and the National Championships. This was the first time that the band had achieved that status in school history. With their outstanding performance on October 30th in New Britain, Connecticut, a rain day and a difficult Tuesday evening performance, the band won their 3rd consecutive U.S. Band's Division 1A State and New England Regional Championship. Their performance earned them a score of 89.8 and caption awards for Best Music, Percussion, Best Color Guard, and Best Visual Effect. With only 3 days until Nationals, we prepared and packed, then made our way to Pennsylvania. We once again were welcomed by what we now consider our Pennsylvania sister band, the Nazareth Area High School Blue Eagle Marching Band, under the direction of Rick Hilborn. They welcomed us to their school to use their facilities and to rehearse on the day before our competition. After the rehearsal, the bands wished each other the best on their upcoming competitions, and Nazareth, being in a larger division in a different circuit, went their way, and we went to U.S. Band's National Championships. So then, on Saturday, November 3rd, the band traveled to J. Bernie Crum Stadium in Allentown, Pennsylvania to compete in the Division 1A National Championships. The members of the Blue Raider Marching Band worked so hard this season on refining every second and perfecting every detail of their 8.5-minute competition field show entitled Flight. With a great focus and understanding that the finals performance was a culmination of all of their hard work over the past 5.5 months, they took the field and gave what was undoubtedly their best performance. The result of that performance was a score of 94.400, just 5/100ths of a point higher than an extremely strong second-place band from La Plata High School in Maryland. Also winning national caption awards for Best Color Guard and Best Overall Effect, the Blue Raiders won their second U.S. Band's National Championship in Division 1A in school history. Not only did our students all satisfy their wishes to perform to their own individual and ensemble standards for success, but a group of highly regarded marching arts professionals were in agreement with their level of achievement. The students were commended numerous times by the event's 7 adjudicators in their audio commentary and evaluation. One comment stood out to me from an overall effect judge from Oklahoma City, who said, "We have been judging marching bands today for over 8 hours, and this is the band that I'm going to remember. What a wonderful celebration. Directors, staff, and students, you should be very proud. Go celebrate." This commentary was given by the overall effect judge with 30 seconds of our show still to go. He had made up his mind at that point that the Blue Raiders were the best band of the day. It should be noted that it is not our philosophy as a staff to teach the students that winning is a measuring stick for success, but to be recognized for our efforts as an organization for our self-prescribed quest for excellence in performance, ingenuity, and entertainment. We accept this recognition with great humility and gratitude. Our students have learned that the journey, the hard work, the great effort, and the long hours of practicing and rehearsing, it's all worth it in the end. That's not a band thing, it's a
life thing.
That wasn't even prompted. It would be remiss of me not to mention the incredible staff that we have here with the Blue Raider Marching Band. Some of them are with us today. They spend many hours planning and designing, and they come in and teach our students the lessons and skills necessary for success. They put their hearts and soul into teaching their craft. Their efforts can never truly be repaid, and I thank and recognize each and every one of them for their great work this season. Additionally, the parent helpers and supporters of the band deserve a great deal of recognition as well, and many of them are here today. They are with us through all, whether it was helping build props or fix props, chaperoning an event, towing a trailer, riding the bus with the kids, planning some of our Music Town events, providing nursing services on the road, helping hold down props in inclement weather, helping feed the band, which is no easy task, or they were just there to cheer on the students and give them a hug when they needed it. Our band does not function without their participation. They are an important part of our band's success. In the end, these students have achieved something for all of us to be proud of. For we as educators have dedicated our professional careers to enriching their lives in order to give them the opportunities to become successful in life. Though this trophy, this banner, these awards are all very impressive, the years will go by and they will collect dust. A memory of that wonderful day when the Blue Raiders were the best in the country. However, I'm sure you will agree, I will be more proud to watch all of their future successes of all of these talented young men and women, all of the accomplishments that they will have throughout their lifetime. And we as a staff and parent support group will continue with your support to work tirelessly to afford this marching arts opportunity and education to every Somerset and Berkley student that walks through our doors. I'm not sure we can top this one, a second national championship and a first undefeated U.S. band season in our school's history, but we're going to try to match it every opportunity that we have. So again, on behalf of the students and the staff, as well as the friends, family, and supporters of the Blue Raider Marching Band, I thank you all for your continued support. We share this achievement with all of you, our entire school community, our vast alumni, and the towns of Somerset and Berkley. So in closing, I will send details to all of you once plans are in place for a championship banquet to celebrate the band's achievement. In the meantime, if you'd like to ask any of the children any questions, we certainly can do that, and then we'd love to take a picture with all of you as well. So thank you very much for your support and your attention.
Thank you. Could you tell us about maybe the individual students that are holding the hardware there could tell us exactly what it is.
Each one of these trophies, guys, hold up the regular season trophies. Okay, those are each individual competition that we went to. So at each one of the competitions in Division 1A, they came in first place this season. So those are all the first place trophies from the regular season. You see some people with medals on. Some of the kids that have medals, those are the caption awards. So though there's a first place winner, there are certain sub-captions: best music, best percussion, best color guard, overall effect, and visual effect. And so sometimes that goes to the first place winner, sometimes it doesn't. And in many cases, they did win all of the caption awards as well. This trophy here, the red one, that's the New England State Championship trophy. That was, it was supposed to take place on a Saturday, but there was really bad weather in Connecticut on that day. And unfortunately, the Connecticut School Association doesn't allow for performances on Sunday. So being that the national championships were the next weekend, they had to improvise, so they split the event in two. Half of the event was on Tuesday night and half was on Wednesday night. We were fortunate to be on Tuesday night because Wednesday night was Halloween. I'm sure the children would have missed Halloween. So that was a Tuesday evening performance all the way out in New Britain, Connecticut, and they won first place in 4 of the 5 captions. And of course, this large 10-foot trophy is the one that they won, and again, by the slimmest of margins. There was some great competition when we went out there. Third place was last year's defending champion from Weehawken, New Jersey, and La Plata High School from Maryland. It's, like I said, 5/100ths of a point. So when you start looking at the scores and seeing those sub-captions, they were right in the mix.
Did you get tired of winning first place every time?
Freddie's like, no. Go ahead, go.
I honestly think like I don't think we ever focused on winning. I think it was just always trying to beat our personal best.
Yeah.
And like focusing on the fact that it's not just about the trophy, it's about reaching our goals that we want as a band and as individual sections.
Excellent.
And what's your instrument?
I don't play an instrument, I'm part of the color guard. Yeah.
She's the captain.
Good. Good for you.
I think that's really important because there was no level of complacency. Okay, we got first place, that was yesterday. Now, how do we improve for tomorrow? Again, not a band thing.
It's a
How
life
about someone from the band? We heard from the color guard. How about someone from the band?
Yeah, how about someone from the band? Mr. Rowe, show the horn song.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoyed, when they call our names for first place, but that's, by that point, in my mind, the night's already over. What I look forward to is the performance itself and, spending time with all these people before and after. So,
Thank
Well
you.
spoken.
I couldn't have said that any better. It probably would have taken me 5 pages.
I know it's still early in the year for some of the seniors, but anybody have plans on doing band maybe at college level? Yeah.
Good.
Excellent, good luck.
Music teacher of the future? Right.
I think that's a really important thing. It's not a matter of whether they go on to do the same types of groups, but as long as they keep music in their lives in some way, shape, or form. So some of them are going to go off and do other things in life, and that's a beautiful thing. We talked about that with my summer wind ensemble. The fact that we have students sitting next to professional musicians, sitting next to a doctor, sitting next to a carpenter or a janitor, and people keep that in their lives. So that's really great. It's something that we hope that we're instilling on them.
I have one question. Where are you going to put all these trophies?
Right now, they're kind of just in the band room. And we kind of have like a little section. I'm going to have to clear out a space. I joke with the kids. I said, they keep winning like this, I'm going to have to put one in front of every column.
Well, thank you very much for coming in tonight. I'm sure it goes without saying that we're extremely proud of you all, the hard work that you put into this, and you've shown it in this incredible achievement. But I'm sure the experiences that you've gained are really something that are going to stay with you for a long time. And I know what a close-knit group you are. That became extremely evident to me the night of the field show.
Oh, yes.
So congratulations again. forward to some further performances over the course of the year. I know that many of you are in other groups, so, and I'd also like to not only thank the staff, but also the parents who are here tonight that I know do a tremendous amount to support the band and travel with them. And so, thank you all for doing what you do. Thank you.
Can we have an opportunity for a photo? Sure. All right, let's set ourselves up here. We're going to put this right between you guys over here. You have to see when they bring it out, because they have a Marine at the award ceremony. The Marine is in uniform bringing it out.
Nice try.
Yes, yeah. That's why I was going to say, like, some of the smaller trophies can go up on bigger things. And then you want to put these. You know, we can use the nameplates and or the caption award there. This might actually help. Can we have the caption awards? Some caption awards here to hold that up. We'll find windows. One more? Isn't that funny? We're like, another caption award. All right, once you place things down, why don't you come right around, and we're going to stand behind this, and then we're going to listen to all the parents and Mr. Austin, sure. Hey, that looks good.
You're not blocking well.
No, that's why we're saying seated.
I'm going this way, next to Mr. Gilladucci. Now, I'm sure they're going to tell us that we need to squish in. Windows, go in windows. Here we go, go in that window, go in this window, go in that window. Go here, I'm going to go back. All right. Okay, smiling.
All right, George is, what do we want?
What are we saying?
Look center and
Straight ahead. George is up on the table.
many caramels.
Come on, George. You got this, George.
Got it.
It's changing the film.
There's so many cameras.
Everybody's got it? All right. Great job, guys. Thank you. All right, let's have you guys come around. Whatever you brought, take back with you.
All right. Let's get it.
Go ahead, get over.
Don't hurt me.
Good night. Good night. Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, and one in the front. It takes like 6 people to carry it. I had a wonderful picture too of them carrying it in front of the stadium. Like, after they took the picture, like, okay, we're here. Thank you very much, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So the next item we have on the agenda is student representative report. Welcome, Ryan. It's very nice to have you aboard. I just wanted to mention to you, I'm not sure if anyone's discussed this with you, but the position of student representative is actually a position that's created under Massachusetts law. And so you actually have an active role in the meeting. You're considered an ex officio member of the school committee, and you're able to join in any discussion of any issue that we have on the agenda. You're not allowed to vote on the issue, and you're not allowed to participate in an executive session, but you are here to express the perspective of our students, and feel free to jump in any discussion. Now, I know sometimes your school schedule might prevent you from staying for the entire meeting, so if that occurs, that's fine, but you're certainly welcome to stay for the entire meeting. But we usually do have a student report at the beginning, but I just wanted to make you aware that your role is much more than simply providing a periodic report of what's going on at the high school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so my name's Ryan Silverman, and I'm from Somerset. Just give you a little bit about myself, and I'm currently serving as senior class president. So just to give a little update about what's been going on in the school, on November 1st, one of our students, Lauren Fitzpatrick, held a 3-versus-3 basketball tournament in honor of Mason Stern, who was a Somerset resident who recently passed away over the summer, and to raise money for a bench in honor of him, and they did very well. Sports are in between sessions right now, well, except for field hockey, which had their finals tonight at Braintree, as well as football, because they've got their case game, which leads me on to my next topic. That case rally is in full swing at the school. And this year, the classes aside, the money would be donated to The Cure Starts Now and the Tomorrow Fund in honor of Selena Omen. Also, that means Spirit Week is starting. It actually starts tomorrow with Way Back Wednesday. So that will be lots of fun. Tomorrow as well, we have a math meet, so hopefully that will go well. All right, and so I also would like to ask permission of the school committee for some directions that student council would like to pursue this year. And so we have two. One of them is the survey initiative, where with this, the student council would create surveys on issues that are relevant to the students and send them over email. And the student council would then compile the results and then present it to you during this segment of the meeting. And I would just like to pass it to the school committee before anything happens.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can you give us an idea of the kinds of things that you want to survey?
One of the topics that we want to survey this year, for example, is Chromebooks, to get a feel how the students are using them, if they're finding them helpful.
Okay. And you'll be doing that, you envision doing that on more than one occasion. So each survey will have a particular topic that you want to gather data on? Okay.
It'd be around a monthly basis, and ultimately, I would be the one presenting them at school committee meetings.
Okay.
And was there another thing?
Yes. So the second thing student council would like to start this year is a town hall style meeting, where basically starting in January, the student council, each class would choose a different issue in the school, and in the period of roughly around 6 meetings I'm envisioning, they would go around doing research, whether it be through surveys sent to the students or online looking at other schools, and ultimately they would compile all of their data and come up with potential solutions, and this would hopefully be presented at the school committee meeting in April. I believe it's on the 25th.
So you would have a series of possibly 6 town meetings?
No, not town meetings. They'd be student council meetings.
Oh, okay.
And then everything would be presented at this school committee meeting.
So usually we have to put items like that on our agenda, and I would like to run them by the superintendent as well. So would it be okay if we put it on the agenda for our next meeting?
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
We'll do that.
All right, thank you.
Those are good ideas.
And the other thing I wanted to mention also is there's also a provision that we have a student advisory board, and that is really the student council. So if the student council were interested in having one or more school committee members come to one of your meetings, I believe you meet once a month.
Yeah, roughly around that time frame.
You could let us know about that, and if students had questions or concerns that they wanted to raise, they could raise them directly with the members of the school committee who were able to attend the meeting. If they're during, I assume they're at the end of the school day.
Yes, usually after school.
So it probably wouldn't be possible for everybody to be there, but
Okay.
we'd have at least one school committee representative there, if the student council were interested in that.
I think that way we have increased opportunities for a back and forth dialogue, so that we do get your input, or the students' input, and we get to hear some of the reasoning behind some of the things that we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we will hear on the superintendent's update and the New England Association of Schools and Colleges report, which was is for the principal to provide. Next item on the budget and finance matters is the approval of student activity accounts. We have a memo. And again, the principal is going to provide us with some background information, and as you know, he's not here. I know he's here somewhere. And I did have some questions. There is a handbook from the Department of Revenue regarding student activity accounts. And they should be approved early in the school year. So, in the memo, there are a series of accounts, and some of them did not appear to me to be student activity accounts. The student council would be, and the Raiders Turf, the National Honor Society, semi-formal dance. I can't tell from what's described under drama, if that's a student activity account. Do we know if there's a student activity account for drama?
It's inactive. It had no balance in it. I think the intent is to ramp it up again though, so.
That's what it says here.
All right, so, okay, so actually, dodgeball account raises money by hosting dodgeball and volleyball tournaments. Funds are raised through these events go towards senior scholarships, field trips, equipment, and donations to community causes. Who makes the decisions? I'm wondering if this is a student activity account. Do student officers make decisions as to how that money is spent?
I don't believe there are student members in that club.
So that wouldn't be a student activity account, I don't think.
Well, this actually says extracurricular activities, so I didn't understand this to be student activities accounts, but actual after-school activities.
Well, but we're being asked to approve student activity accounts. The Department of Revenue requires us to annually approve student activity accounts, the creation annually.
So I don't know if this is the list though.
Well, my impression was that this was the list. Is that, do you know, Mrs. Albanaz?
I agree with you about some of them not being student activity accounts. So they should not be on the agenda as student activity accounts.
No. This is not the report that would give us that.
Correct.
So, I was going to, we could defer this for our next meeting, although further into this school year we go. But I believe I received an email today that the principal is unable to attend our next meeting also. So,
If you have specific questions, some of them are really self-explanatory. If you have specific questions on some of these clubs as to whether or not they are a club or just an extracurricular activity, you can forward them to me, and we will, Ms. Blackmore and I will research them with the principal and have the final roster for the next school committee meeting.
It might be helpful, because he did provide an explanation of some of these, and we can forward those questions. But even if we use this list and just denote which are in fact student activity accounts, that would be helpful.
Yeah,
And maybe to what degree they're used during the year, like, what they're...
So
well, my understanding of a student activity account is that they're funds actually raised by students for the benefit of student activities. And if they fall into that category, then the law requires that the students determine how the funds are to be expended and actually have to sign off on every expenditure from that particular student activity account. And so there are some that are listed here, like dodgeball, music, Envirothon, where the Envirothon actually says that there is budget money spent from the school budget. So then Students in Need, Best Buddies, and Hip Hop. All of those, I questioned whether they're actually student activity accounts.
So I think if they come back with this modified, highlighted which ones are in fact student activity accounts, that would be helpful. Rather than us trying to...
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Just casual.
Yeah.
So, Rick, what you're saying is the students determine how the money gets spent, but they can't disperse the funds, right? Really?
Yes. For example, the senior class funds, the senior class decides how that money that they've raised is spent, and they have to, their class officers have to sign off on every expenditure. The way the funds are actually dispersed is that we've authorized that a checking account be established with the principal having authority to sign the checks. But the principal, makes the disbursements based upon how the students decide to spend the money.
Okay, so we'll defer that until we get that other information.
Okay, next item on the agenda is special education transportation expenditures update.
Oh,
I'm not sure who
yeah.
put that. I had sent a document a few weeks ago as a follow-up to that school committee meeting. The question was asked, I wasn't prepared to speak on it tonight. I did email the chair and the vice chair about that last week, but I did not get a response.
So you must have sent that to Kate 8, because I remember looking at that. And that was all pretty self-explanatory.
Well, the minutes that are on for approval tonight indicated that I had requested that at a future meeting, we receive a report on special education transportation expenditures. So I thought that's why I think maybe Mrs. Vaccaro put it on the agenda because of that, but we'll defer that till our next meeting.
I'm not sure what other information you need at this point as far as the special education transportation update. I thought that spreadsheet was pretty robust and gave you all the information that you requested.
All right, well, was it circulated to the whole
Yes.
committee? All right, well, I don't have it here, so we'll check it and see if we need to have it on the agenda the next time. Okay, so the next item is a request for proposals for bus transportation.
Okay, so in front of you, you have a 40-page document that is the transportation RFP for yellow buses, as well as in-district special education transportation. We are currently in our 5th year of the contract with Fisher Bus right now, which requires us to go out to bid for the upcoming school year next year. I'm not going to go through really any of the details other than I'd like to get this out and posted by December 14th. The K-8 school committee, I'm putting this on the agenda next Tuesday for their meeting, the 20th. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's some new things in here that we wanted to add, such as daily bus counts, morning and afternoon, the possibility of putting security cameras on all the buses, the possibility of utilizing routing software, and just some general terms about late buses, the counts of buses that we need, and how we might be looking into making schedule changes throughout the year as far as start times and end times. I know that that's been a topic of discussion, so there's some caveats in there for that. There is some changes to the training that is required for drivers. I indicated that as well, to make sure that those are up to par, the drivers for the buses. And then just the minimum evaluation criteria. So when we do get bids back, that's what I'll be using to grade any bidders that we do get.
Typically, we don't get many.
You only get one.
Well, yeah, that was a topic of discussion at the school committee conference. The state auditor has issued a report, and that's a concern that frequently across the state, there's only one bidder on these contracts. And it raises questions about the competitiveness of the bids and whether, so. But I had read through this and I left a copy of the invitation for bid that I had gone through. I left it this morning and I indicated I'd be happy to discuss some of the issues that I have. Do you want to go through them now, Mrs. Albanese?
It's your choice.
Okay. So one of the things I'm concerned about is a change in these hours of the school day. And I noticed a provision, I believe it's 1.6, that says it's understood that some schools, there may be changes or other unusual situations result in differences in the scheduling of school times. Was this intended to give us flexibility with respect to that? Because if it is, I'd like our legal counsel to tell us that that's sufficient to permit us to make that change, because I know there's an appendix to the agreement that specifically lists the start of school times. And this is a 5-year contract. I know there's nothing imminent in terms of changing the school day, but there's an awful lot of discussion across the state about starting times for high schools. And I'd like to know that we're not locked in for another 5 years of starting school the high school at 7:20.
Yeah, when I read that, that seemed to refer to delayed openings and because of inclement weather, et cetera. So I think it would make sense to see if the language could be changed or needed to be modified to allow us that flexibility for an absolute change in start time.
Well, I thought it was a little broader. It said it's recognized that such situations result in changes in the agreed contractual costs of providing transportation to schools. Such changes in costs should be mutually negotiated. If an agreement cannot be reached, it is understood and agreed that the contractor will relinquish all financial claims and other rights guaranteed to it with respect to the particular school or schools, and that the school committee may seek new bids. So it provides quite a bit of flexibility, I think. But just like,
You want legal counsel to review this paragraph to
Yes.
to determine that it's appropriate?
yeah, determine
Language.
that if we were to make changes in the start and end of the school day, that provision would be applicable and allow us to do it,
Rick,
subject to negotiation.
section 4, time schedule, 4.1. Read that real quick. Seems like that covers you.
But it's,
Are you reading 4.1?
Yeah.
4?
4.3.
I'm not sure.
oh, 4.3.
Yeah. 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. Flexibility to change time and routes every year.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there are
Trying to
some
take
other,
money out of the hands of your people.
there is times,
Yeah.
and there are specific times set in one of the appendices, so
But
just want to make sure we have.
that area, that section gives you the ability to redo it every year.
Okay. In section 1.21, where it requires them to retain the footage for 2 weeks, I was wondering if that could be extended to 30 days, which I think is kind of a normal time frame, and sometimes issues don't arise immediately, so. I'm glad to see 1.25, which I believe is new, that requires the driver to maintain daily counts. Is that something we added? Good. Under Roman numeral 3, these pages on page 10, I'm sorry, they are numbered, where the indemnification is the towns of Somerset and Berkley, it should include the Somerset Berkley Regional School District.
And as well as Berkeley? Or just Somerset and Somerset
I
Berkeley?
think it does say, doesn't it say? It says the towns of Somerset and Berkeley, but it should also indemnify the Somerset Berkeley Regional School District.
Okay.
We are a separate legal entity. Then on 5.14, I would just suggest that we add in the end of the second sentence, it requires periodic trainings for them to provide us with a schedule of the trainings. This is 5.14.
5.14, okay. Yes, I saw that.
Then on page 14, It lists the number of students that we transport. I was surprised to see that number of only 685. That's the number that we transport.
We can up it to the entire population of the high school just to keep us covered, but in the event that we have seniors that drive and students that are school choice kids, obviously they don't get transportation. We have students on vans and juniors that drive.
How does that impact on our regional transportation aid?
If they're scheduled for a route and that route is at 75% capacity, then it's fine. Everybody needs to be scheduled for a route.
Right.
Whether
So-
or not they ride the bus is a different story.
So that means 1,000,
Yes.
right? So
But we
that's
also have the policy with walking distance too, so it's a mile, our current policy. Students that live within a mile do not get transportation to the high school.
Okay, so I would just, maybe we can discuss that a little further before this is actually
Sure.
sent out. And then under 7.6, it says 50 minutes, no bus run shall exceed 50 minutes. I thought I had read, I didn't go back to find it, but I thought I had read that in a previous paragraph it said 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then an issue that came up at the conference, the school committee conference, in 11.4. It says each bidder must submit the names, addresses, telephone numbers, and contact person for the last 3 public school districts, preferably in Massachusetts, served by the bidder. It would be acceptable if there were only 1 or 2 reference districts, as long as they have been in service for more than 10 years. One of the issues that came up is that many typical contracts do say that the experience has to be in Massachusetts, and that there are some transportation providers that are very experienced and enjoy excellent reputations in other states, and that their experience should be considered, but it does say preferably. So I'm not sure if that creates a preference for companies that have worked in Massachusetts. I was going to suggest that maybe there could be a provision in that paragraph that allows the awarding authority to waive the requirement of experience within Massachusetts if the company has relevant experience in surrounding states. And then on page 22, I think these are just editorial changes, but it says 14 shared between Somerset, Berkley public schools on a 1/3, 2/3 basis. I think it should say Somerset Public Schools and Somerset Berkley Regional School District on a 1/3, 2/3 basis. And then in the third paragraph, 4 buses in addition for elementary funds.
Runs.
Right. And then on page 24, the very last word on the page, I think should be committees rather than departments. Exciting stuff, eh, Ryan? And then on page 36, the bottom, a triple tier. Single, double, and triple. And then on page 39, where it says out-of-town athletic activities, is the reason why we haven't included extracurriculars. I know we have band and show choir and several other activities that have bus transportation, I believe. Should this schedule apply to them as well? How does that work?
Typically, in the past, they have been included in this schedule. However, the one consistent complaint that I've received from the K-12 grades are lack of competition when doing a singular trip. So one that's in our contract versus calling another vendor for a weekend trip. My intent here was to listen to the people who are actually calling vendors to get quotes and having more competition for those types of activities.
So that wouldn't apply to athletic transportation?
I think athletic is so big that it's not, we need to have something in concrete.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any comments? All right, so if we could just discuss that student number
Sure.
in the next day or two.
Sure.
Is that all right with the committee? Sure. Okay, so with that caveat, I'll entertain a motion to approve or authorize the Director of Business and Finance to publish the invitation for bid for transportation for school pupils as it's been provided with the suggested changes.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Larrabee, seconded by Mrs. Gagliotti. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Right, next is approval of monthly invoices. Are there any questions on the invoices? Right, then I would ask everyone to sign the warrants before leaving this evening. Next, superintendent evaluation documents. So we've been provided with a copy of the superintendent evaluation form. As well as the goals. And we talked about trying to do this by our first meeting in January. So we have the superintendent's goals for 2018 that are included, as well as for 17, but the 18 goals are actually the ones that are relevant. And usually, I believe we have a presentation by the superintendent. So we need to talk with him and see if, when he can do that. Just inform the committee that we received a third step grievance, which has to be scheduled for hearing in executive session. There was a suggestion that, well, let me say that we've had difficulty scheduling this joint meeting. We've been trying to do it over the last couple of months and haven't been able to find a mutually convenient date for both committees. And so there was a suggestion made that we might schedule this joint meeting on December 13th. I responded to that saying that I wanted to have more discussion about that because I'm concerned that if we do that on the 13th, it's probably going to preempt most of our agenda that night, because I can't imagine that hearing is going to take less than an hour to an hour and a half. And then we have other agenda items for the joint meeting, and we've deferred various items that are on our agenda tonight. plus the issue of the superintendent's evaluation, so we're going,
We need to look at 2 dates in December.
yes, that's what I think. Robin, did you, we haven't sent out a Google or a Doodle poll for the joint meeting, because the suggestion was the 13th, which I have reservations about, so. But there was also some discussion that the first date would be December 20th.
Yes, that's being held for another meeting, but if that doesn't happen, then we could have a joint meeting that day.
That's being held for another, for what meeting?
Appendix C meeting.
Oh, all right. Yes, but I think I also responded that I'm concerned about waiting till December 20th for that meeting. So I was hoping we could try to do something about changing the time of the day, or and having a meeting on the Appendix C. But even the 20th is
Late.
pretty far out.
We have a budget subcommittee meeting, I think tentatively scheduled for Thursday, December 6th at 5:30,
Correct.
right? I'm wondering, can we do our meeting after that?
What about if we, on the 13th, since that's already been cleared with everyone,
Right, keep that for the joint.
well, why wouldn't we just extend it? Instead of starting at 6:30, we could start earlier. Because
Well,
December
because
is a
it
tough
becomes problematic for people, I mean,
it's a month
it
away.
becomes problematic for people to get to a meeting much earlier than 6:30. Mrs. Fields coming from Boston, Mrs. Rothwell generally isn't available for early meetings unless she makes special arrangements, so, and again, I'm just concerned that our agenda gets shortchanged. We rescheduled this meeting, and then, you know, it was totally outside of everybody's control that the, you know, field hockey championship game would get scheduled tonight, but it, you know, so.
I mean,
All I'm saying is, we need, I wanted to make the committee aware that there's a proposal to schedule this hearing on the 13th as well as the joint meeting, and I'm concerned that that's kind of shortchanging our agenda and the date that we had set for our meeting. And so we'll see what we can do.
Mrs. Gagliardi, it makes sense, since we already have the 6th on the calendar, and there's several of us on the budget subcommittee who are planning on attending that meeting.
right.
Perhaps we do the hearing first, and then follow budget immediately thereafter.
So is the hearing just the region, or is it?
No, it would be a joint hearing. But
So-
there are other items on the agenda for a joint meeting. Several items.
So we have a region meeting scheduled on the 13th, and that would get way too busy if we did the hearing, right?
Unless we
joint
move the
meeting.
regional meeting to the 6th.
That's what
That's
I was
exactly what I
recommending.
was- yes.
That's what I was
I think that
recommending,
makes perfect sense.
that we do our regional meeting on the 6th, right after the budget
Right.
subcommittee.
So you're available,
Yeah, we,
Mr. Larrabee's available, Mr. Patello, are you available? Sure. Mrs. Fields?
yeah. Ryan, could you possibly do the 6th?
Of December?
Yeah.
I believe so.
So I have our budget meeting from 5:30 to 6:30. We would do our meeting starting at 6:30.
Okay, that's, we could have our meeting on the 6th. Do you know if the superintendent's available on the 6th? Do you have his schedule with you by any chance? Pardon me?
I don't have it with me now.
And,
He said he could go to the budget meeting, so I'm assuming he's fine.
okay,
Yeah.
fine.
So you stick around there.
And then we would do the
Bring a
joint meeting and
sample.
the hearing on the 13th.
Right.
Okay.
Plus, that would also make the principal available, because he's not
Right.
available on the 13th.
Works out all around.
Very good.
Got it.
I'm glad you came up with that.
All right, so we'll I'll speak to the superintendent about whether he can do his presentation on the 6th, along with a lot of the other things that we have. Because I think we also need to defer action on the employee handbook till the 6th also.
Okay, yeah. So that will allow, hopefully, the superintendent can do his presentation on the 6th, and that gives us plenty of time to work on this before we submit our evaluations.
All right, so the next items on the agenda relate to policy, so I'll ask Mrs. Field to...
Yes. So you have a number of policies being asked to be considered this evening. I'm going to take them a bit out of order from what we have on the agenda, just because I think the way that we organize the conversation might be a little bit easier. Back on April 1st, 2018, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act went into effect. And with that going into effect, there were a number of policies that needed to be updated with language reflecting this act. So we can take these all in a bunch, but I just wanted to kind of group them together for you. So you have AC, non-discrimination, GBA, equal employment opportunity, GCF, professional staff hiring, JB, equal education opportunity, JFBB, school choice. So all of those policies that I just read off, the language has been tweaked to include that for the Pregnant Fairness Act. So I can give the committee a chance to take a look at them if they want, if there's any questions on those.
Could you just...
Sure.
So it was AC...
GBA.
GCF.
GCF as well. And that is equal employment opportunity. Yep.
What were the other, was it just those three?
No.
No.
Let's take it from the top. AC,
Yep.
GBA, GCF, JB, JFBB. And I apologize, when I look at these, probably should put them in order on the agenda.
Why couldn't you just number these?
We have this discussion
Every
all the
single
time.
time.
Policies, every single time. Never fails. So again, you'll see within those policies, there's been language added as the MASC recommends.
Policy QXLMLP says that we have to number them like this.
Yes.
This is the way the Mass Association of School Committees does their lettering. You can't call it numbering. So with respect to all 5 of these, the only change is to add that there will not be any discrimination based on pregnancy or pregnancy-related condition. So I'll entertain a motion to adopt the changes to policy AC, GBA, GCF, JB, and JFBB.
So moved.
That's on
This
first
is a-
read. That's on first reading.
First read, okay.
Yes.
So it's not adoption.
No.
No.
Seconded.
Motion made by Mrs. Gagliotti, seconded by Mr. Botello. Any further discussion? In absence of discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Okay, the next 2 policies I'm asking the committee to review is JFABE, Education Opportunities for Military Children, and JFABF, Education Opportunities for Children in Foster Care. The ESSA requirements for military children and children in foster care, under the Every Student Succeeds Act, federal law requires school districts to make accommodations for both children of active duty military families and for children placed in foster care. These 2 policies outline that for your review.
Good job, Stephanie.
questions? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to adopt policies JFABE and JFABF on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Field and seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Is there any further discussion? Everybody had enough time to satisfy themselves to vote? First reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
The next policy for review, we're actually on our second reading, CBI evaluation of the superintendent. During our first reading, it was noted that there was duplicate information listed in 1 through 3, and was actually 4. So you'll see here that we've cleaned up the language through provide excellence in administrative leadership of the school district. That was number 3. That had been listed in the previous version in another number. And this is for second reading.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, in the absence of, I'm sorry, did you have a question? I will entertain a motion to adopt evaluation of superintendent, policy CBI, on second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Gagliardi and seconded by Mr. Larrabee. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
The last policy that we have for review is school visitor policy, first reading. This was a policy that was approved at the K-8 level. I would entertain that we table this policy. The policy subcommittee did have an opportunity to review it at our last meeting, but unfortunately the superintendent wasn't there to answer questions for us. So we had put it on the agenda with the thought that we might be able to have some preliminary discussion this evening with him, but since he nor the principal were able to attend, I would recommend tabling this one.
Yeah, this, as a member of the policy subcommittee, I had raised a couple of concerns. The first is that we have a new identification process for anyone entering the building, which is not referenced here. I believe people have to leave their driver's license with the receptionist at the front door. But the other concern that I have is there's a rather complicated process for visiting the high school, which includes making a written request in advance. And my question is whether that is intended to apply to the school committee. It's very general now, and it applies to anyone who's asking to come in, including parents. I have no problem with if a member of the school committee wants to come in to notify the superintendent or the principal in advance, make them aware of the reason, but I'm questioning whether a member of the school committee should have to fill out a written request.
Is that related specifically to classroom observations, though?
I don't think so.
No, it was more general, and that was, as Mr. Pierce said, that was one of the questions we were looking for some clarifications on.
Okay.
So we'll, hopefully, we have another policy subcommittee scheduled for Thursday of this week. So hopefully at our next meeting we'll be able to present a policy on
So motion to table?
Yeah, we'll table that one.
So are you making a motion to table?
I'd like to make a motion to table policy KI.
And is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of tabling policy KI?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so under unfinished business, update on identifying the bottom 25% of students. And once again, this is a matter that was to be addressed by the principal. However, I know this is a matter that's of concern to you, Mr. Vitello, and I. If we could have some discussion as to the nature of the presentation we're looking for from the principal.
Sure. So earlier today, I did have a discussion with Ms. Haskell regarding this, and I'll just kind of recap that conversation. I think, well, I know when we met at the school committee retreat, there was discussion about, the process to identify the bottom 25. So I definitely like an update on that, because I think the method that was being used was actually looking at students' MCAS scores from 8th grade, and that class is now in their sophomore year, right? So if that is the prescribed method from the state, I think we need to rethink that, because I don't see how valuable that is, right? So one, to get to the point, one, what is the method of identifying the bottom 25? And we say bottom 25, what about killing the 26th percentile? Right? Should be more identifying students that are in need. Right? So what is the process to identify? What are the steps to provide some kind of intervention? Right? And it's as simple as that, right?
And I believe you also mentioned that there seems to be parts of the Aspen program that can assist in that process.
So there are multiple reports in Aspen, and I figured this out by just doing Google searches, that provide identification for students at risk. I also believe that there's like a DNF report that's the name of the report that gets run. So the school district, to my knowledge, is currently running that and has been running that for a little while. So I'd like to see the results of that. The other thing I'd also like to understand too is, are we waiting until the first semester is done to provide that identification? If that's the case, I think we need to rethink the process, because that's 25% of the year that's done.
That would be a particular concern for freshmen, probably, because presumably students beyond freshmen would be identified during the course of the freshman year and being tracked.
So I hate to presume anything, right? But I would hope that, and I'm not saying that we are where we need to be, but I'd like to see steps being taken towards getting us to where we need to be. In a perfect world, it would be more of a constant metric identifying students that are at risk with certain criteria to identify that. It shouldn't be, look at an MCAS score or look at grades at the end of the semester. It should be a very continuous assessment.
So in other words, there may be, rather than have a midterm that everyone is evaluated on, or a specific assessment, we're looking at a point in time where we hope all the grades are in, and it could be based, the student's grade could be based on not completing homework assignments. That's the difficult part. So their average grade could be not based on necessarily comprehension of the subject matter, but completion of the assignments. You know what I mean?
I do understand what you're saying, and I think there's a challenge, right? So you could look at identifying the bottom 25 by strictly looking at who scored poorly on the last MCAS test, right? So you can do that, but that's one data point, right? And my concern is that we're not focused on that one data point in identifying, but we should use all the tools that we have in our toolbox to identify students on a continuous basis, right? And the way I look at it, there's a dashboard, right? There's a dashboard that is either a report that gets written or really a dashboard based on all the data that we collect.
That tracks these students.
That says, hey, and you know what, because it is something that's fluid, it can be a little different from today versus next week.
So going back to Rick's question about what we're trying to accomplish, I think it helps to just set the framework for those maybe new to the conversation. So we have identified, or I should say, the state has identified that the bottom 25% is something that feeds into your accountability score, correct? So obviously we have a responsibility as a school committee to make sure that our resources are helping those bottom 25%. So if we have an understanding of how the district calculates, like you said, there's more than one data point. You've got the MCAS, and then there may be some other metrics that we can let administration decide on. What are those appropriate metrics to say, okay, what would identify someone as the bottom 25%? Once we know, based on a dashboard, where our faults are or where we might need to put some more resources into, then we as a school committee can then budget appropriately. So for example, do we need extra resources in X, Y, and Z? Do we find that we need to be able to put more resources behind, whether it's curriculum or teacher or something that's going to help us? But right now, since we don't quite clearly understand how to identify the bottom 25% and what their lack of resources might be, it's hard for us to make a decision.
Yeah, I would say, I would agree with that. And I think, Mike, you're saying that, or at least the way I interpret it is beyond what the state quantifies as the bottom 25%, I would like, and I recognize that it requires resources, it requires perhaps a different way of doing things than we have in the past. How do we actively engage constantly on a regular basis in identifying the group of students that need assistance in whatever capacity that is? So that it may not be the same criteria that the state uses, but how do we do it as a school? And maybe we can be told what that is right now, and then we can talk about, well, is there another way that we can do it? Are we missing students by using this particular metric? Are there other metrics that we should look at? And I would invite the administration to say, well, we can't do it this way because of X, Y, Z, things that we're not aware of. So I think it would be an opportunity to have that dialogue by asking those 4 questions. How are students being identified? What are the steps to provide intervention? What types of reports are extracted on a regular basis from Aspen? And what's the timing on a regular basis of identifying those? And so I think if we can get that information to start with, then we can say, okay, this is working. Let's visit it again in a little while to see if we need to do something else. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Good.
Okay. Is that?
Yeah, again, we have to start taking steps forward. I don't know how many steps forward we've taken, right? Because we haven't gotten an update or any discussion since August. So we need to take steps forward, and based on what those steps are, I think we can provide input and ask more questions and provide direction. And you know what? If the administration comes to us and says, hey, you know what? We would really love to capture this information, but we don't have a means to do that yet. Okay, let's quantify how we can get that data or whatever it is that they're looking for.
And I think too, it's not, we can have the data in all different forms, but then what are we going to do with it is the next question. We'll have to have a conversation on what resources do we need to provide the district so that they can adequately support these students. And that's, and it may happen for different reasons that they fall in that category. It may not even be a straight line. It may just be an up and down. So I think it has to be a discussion, not a, this is what it is, it's right or it's wrong. It has to be kind of a discussion.
Absolutely.
It's obviously something that we should be very mindful of. We need to provide for our high achieving students, our average students, and for also for the students that are struggling. And I'm glad that Mrs. Field mentioned, because Ryan, I was going to just sort of give you a little background. Previously, when this accountability rating for high schools across the state was done, there really wasn't any focus on how underachieving students are progressing and if we're making progress in helping them to do better. And now it's kind of like that thing where you're aware of this issue, but maybe it is you're not as focused on it as you should be, and then someone comes along and gives you a smack, and suddenly you realize that. So it's something we are well aware of, but now there's a focus on it, and we need to do it not only because DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, says we should, but it's also because it's something that needs to be done. So we're trying to figure out how to make some progress and address these needs. Okay, so we'll pass this information along for our next meeting. Okay. So the next item we have is report on Massachusetts Association of School Committees conference. And I was just going to say Mr. Gilladucci and I were at the conference last week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Mrs. Terra was also there representing the K-8 school committee. And I enjoyed the conference. As I've told most people, I had to leave a little earlier than I normally do on Friday at noontime because my granddaughter was in a play at the North Elementary School, and I had to be sure to be back in time for that. Not at the North Elementary School, but students in North Elementary School were putting on a performance of Cinderella here at our Performing Arts Center on Friday evening. But there's a lot of information from some of the seminars that I attended that I want to pass along to the committee in several areas, and I'm going to do that in much more detail over the course of the next few meetings, but just a couple of snapshots. One of the presentations that I went to was about virtual field trips. And one of the examples that they were using was that there's a virtual field trip available on the Galapagos Islands, which immediately started me thinking our students are going to the Galapagos Islands in February, I believe, and I'm going to suggest, and I actually mentioned this to Mrs. Haskell, I'd like to present the idea to the teachers who are leading this group, that our students might prepare a virtual tour of the Galapagos Islands that they could work on and perhaps edit in with the equipment that we now have in the TV studio and present it more generally to the students here at the school so that they can benefit from this experience of their fellow students. As you know, I expressed some reservations about a trip like this being limited to students who can afford $3,700 for a field trip. And this would be a way to allow those students to share the opportunity that they had with their fellow students. And I spoke to the presenter of, one of the presenters who is the technology director in Fitchburg, and I learned that they actually have 360-degree video cameras made by Samsung that only cost about $120 a piece. So I was thinking that maybe we could outfit our group with 3 or 4 of these cameras to use. Maybe certain students volunteer or they switch off the cameras during the course of the trip and come back and be able to make a presentation. So that's just one of the thoughts from one of the seminars that I had. Another one.
I was going to say, I think they already have presentations planned, because I attended as a parent, and that is part of the follow-up, that they need to share what they learned with their classmates.
Another is a program that is presently focused in Fall River and Taunton. to encourage and mentor students to consider, particularly minority students, to consider a career in teaching, because it is extremely difficult for school districts across Massachusetts to recruit teachers who represent minority populations. And so this program, which was started by a young man who left a career in finance to begin this program, has been in place in Taunton, and it's being implemented in Fall River, where teachers work with college students, who work with high school students, who mentor middle school students. It's not limited to minority students, but it is designed to encourage minority students to participate in this process, to lift them up, and to encourage them to consider a career in education. So that's another program. I understand that the young man who started this program actually presented at the social and emotional program, and I was not aware that he was there. It was not one of the programs I attended on that day, but I did attend it at the school committee conference, and I was really excited about it, and it got rave reviews from the people in Taunton that have been participating in this program for a year or two, including the former superintendent there, Julie Hackett, who's now at Lexington. So
our superintendent has already contacted Coaching for Change and is looking to do kind of a collaboration, because it is a very expensive program, but he's looking to probably do it with Berkley and Swansea as well as Somerset. So
yeah, I actually sat next to the superintendent from Swansea at another presentation on school law, and I told him about it, and I told him that I thought our superintendent would be reaching out to him for it, because it really is an exciting program.
They're already
another program that I intended deals with collaboratives, and I'm going to discuss this in greater detail. It was interesting to me that many collaborative boards have school committee representation. The collaboratives that we participate in have only superintendents on their boards. Cape Cod Collaborative has school committee members, and sometimes they switch off. The superintendent is there one year, the school committee member is there another year. I'm just looking for some way that even if a school committee member only accompanies the superintendent, who's actually the member of the board, but I don't think we have enough contact with our collaboratives, and I think we ought to do more. I think the superintendent should be providing us with minutes of all collaborative board meetings, that we should automatically receive a copy of their annual report, and that we should have a representative of the collaborative come in to one of our meetings every year to talk about what's going on in the collaborative, what their focus is, because some collaboratives have very different focuses than others. And one of the things, the South Coast Collaborative that we've been a part of for a long time has at least one of its strong focuses these days in providing programming for 18 to 22-year-olds. And where we actually have brought most of those students back into our school district. So I just think it would be important for us to have more information about the collaboratives that we belong to. There is another collaborative that's headquartered in Dartmouth that I'm sure Mrs. Haskell knows about, that I think has a particular focus on autism. So I'm not sure how our programming is in that regard, but I noticed that I think Dartmouth is the furthest west of any community, but those are some of the things that I found interesting in that presentation. Another one dealing with branding issues in school districts, which is another issue that we've been talking about in terms of marketing. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the things that I participate in that I found very interesting, and in some cases pretty exciting. So Mr. Giliducci, do you have anything to add?
Well, I was basically following up on programs because I was on Berkeley's dime, so I have to report back to Berkeley. And I worked on some plans, future plans, how they should be developed and how we can work on them together. Then I went back, since I'm chairman again, I went back for a refresher course with Mike on superintendency, and it was amazing to see the differences in a lot of questions that were brought up by people, and any of us on this board could have answered a lot of the questions for them because they don't seem to have enough subcommittees, or they're not involved with subcommittees or doing work with subcommittees. So it was very enlightening to see this and have this. And unfortunately, the one program I did want to see, and I mentioned it to Mr. Pierce earlier, was there was a session on vaping, which I wanted to go to. However, the delegate committee, the delegate portion ran so long, it superseded the time limit for the vaping. So, however, Marge did go, so I will have notes on that. The interesting thing about the vaping thing is we have a team, and this is going to be a DECA project. We have a team that is going to report on vaping, and they're going to do their presentation on vaping when we go to the competitions. And the wonderful thing they did do, they contacted Glenn Kuchar at MASC. He sent out a 5-question questionnaire to every school system in the state, and the young ladies are getting reports back from all the schools around the state on their vaping situations. So they're going to be presenting that, and I think we got an international winner here with this team because they're gonna knock vaping out of the box, and we're really excited about it. So that was one of the highlights of being at. I wasn't unable to attend the one, but I think it's going to be good, and so we're going from there.
And maybe you could mention, Mr. Giliducci, that we actually had 2 of our students there.
Oh yes. We had co-presidents of DECA, which I squeeze out every year at no cost. We had Michael Gagliardi and Guy Parento, and our advisor, Christine Eyre. So this is the 3rd year this has been done. And the funny thing about it is, Sam played a funny trick. I lined this up with Sam Chessman, who works for MASC. And the badges that Michael and Guy had read across the top, Glenn. And then their name was below it. So I introduced them to Glenn Kuchar because, you know, we were there. They always work the shift at the DECA desk because DECA has a desk at the conference. And Michael and Guy went over and relieved the director and handled the desk operation. And then Mr. Pierce, the students, Christine Eyre, Mr. Lynch, and I went to lunch. And it was on Mr. Pierce's bill, but we didn't expect that. However, the boys did learn something and did have a chance to go around the resource room and the vendor room and talk to different vendors if they wanted to, because they have mainly the vendors that are there are involved in a lot of building of schools, and there's a lot of building of schools. Then there are others who have programs that go into the schools on reading or on other projects that they do. So they were a little more bashful than the girls of last year. The girls of last year were far more effusive than, and I did mention this to Michael and Guy. I said, you guys have to get more involved, go in there. And they didn't want to do the bingo game either, which the girls did. So, but I think they enjoyed themselves. They had a good time. And this has become an annual thing, so I call Sam every year, and we go work at the DECA desk for an hour or so for the DECA advisor. And they can go anywhere they want in the conference. If they want to attend any of the sessions, they can do that because they have a badge and they can work the sessions. So I'm sure they enjoyed themselves, because you asked them a few questions also, Mr. Pierce, while they were there.
I did. So this will fall under the report on the school committee conference, although it may be stretching it a little. But the 2 students who were there had the opportunity to raise 2 issues with me that I'm just going to pass along to Mrs. Albanaz. One was the possibility of having an ATM machine in the high school. Mrs. Gagliardi, I mentioned you as someone who might just check, you know, I'm
They
sure.
know how to reach me.
I'm sure, yes, I'm sure it's a significant expense, so any institution wants to be sure that they're going to get a sufficient level of business, but it's something that I would like us, and obviously we need to broach this with the principal and the superintendent, but it's just something that has been raised by the students and we ought to look into. And the other issue that was raised was apparently the school store now can only take cash, and they find that they're losing sales because people come in and want to buy several items and they prefer to pay by credit card or debit card. And Mrs. Eyre indicated she was told that it would be very, very expensive to wire. Apparently there's the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi in the school store is not very good.
You could do a square though.
Well, yeah, you mean the little thing that fits in the phone? Yes, so I raised that as well, and I said that we have ways of billing for athletic fees and that kind of thing. So if you could just look into what might be the most economical and easiest solution to them being able, you know, if they're taking credit cards, then there's some accounting process that would have to be done. Okay.
There's some fees.
Now, what they do though, they don't let the customer get away. They put it on layaway. Then they will hold it for the customer. Because, like you say, Mr. Pierce, most of them whip out a credit card because they're spending maybe $40, $50 on different items that their kids want or they want to buy for their kids. So they'll walk up to the desk, and in fact, the store will be open Thursday and Friday night this week. That's a little plug. They'll sell more merchandise. But the people will come up to the desk and they'll just automatically pull out a credit card, and we have to just say, give us your name, your address, and the name of your student, and we put it on the side, and they'll come back with the money. So it'd be a lot handier if they could make the credit transaction. Good.
Wait, I have spoken to Miss Eyre about doing a square a few years ago, and she was not interested in the fee that's charged per transaction. Otherwise, the school would have to pick that up, or DECA's Student Activity Fund would have to pick up all fees related to any square transactions or online collections. It is an option. I can revisit it with her if she's willing to sacrifice the school district paying that fee.
There's got to be a cost, right?
The ATM is very costly. The one piece of information I can share is that most banks want the ATM outside of the building because they want to ensure that it's not just students that are accessing the ATM. So if that's something that you are willing to accept, to have an ATM machine outside of the building, out of this building, then that's fine. We can go down that road. I just think that before we do all this research and call various banks, is that something that the school committee is comfortable doing?
I don't think we're interested in having it outside the building, but
Okay.
maybe we can talk to some of our friends about the possibility of having it inside. I don't know. So,
We can always ask.
yes.
And we could always do
No harm in
layaway.
asking.
We can always do layaway. We won't let them get away. We'll hold it for them.
What is the charge? I'm not familiar with the term square, but it's just a little chip you put in the cell.
Yeah, it's
little-
usually 3% of the purchase price is charged to use that.
And that
But
doesn't
don't
cost
credit
them
card,
extra.
don't credit card
Any company that
companies,
takes a credit card gets charged
Yeah.
Oh,
a
yes.
fee.
is that more than they would charge? In other words, if you use a MasterCard gets a certain percentage of the fee, no matter what type of device you
Right,
use.
this would be on top of
It's
that.
on top of it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on top of
like the
it.
2% plus the 3%?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's,
Mm-hmm.
all right, so,
Or you get a merchant, or you get the merchant terminal. Where you
Right,
can
we do
and
have-
you get that from the bank. where you
We do
to
have
spend.
one from Unibank that we had purchased, I think, for Rita's Remember. We had that 5 years ago. We just never used it.
Yeah.
well, would that avoid that 3% fee?
No.
No, you still have. There's
Any bank's gonna
transaction
charge
fee.
you
It's
to
gonna be a
process
transaction
any
fee.
sort of transaction.
Right. Any credit card.
All right, well, we'll just discuss it a little further. If it's not feasible, it's not feasible. Okay. But I just wanted to pass those requests along, so.
So is it cash only, or do they take checks as well?
No, checks they'll take, right.
Okay.
Yeah, checks, and of course it's made out to the Somerset Berkley setup, so that, you know, it's the only way it goes. It's Somerset Berkley DECA that they have to, just like when they're taking any kinds of donations in or what have you, they spell it out that way.
Thank you. Okay. So next item is Somerset and Berkley K-8 updates. Mr. Patella, do you have anything on Somerset K-8?
I think since we last met, on October 31st, we got the NSBA feasibility approval for the middle school. That's the biggest news. Besides that, the agenda was fairly light. So we're actually put out requests, RFPs for assessments of the elementary schools. So last year, this time, I think we went to the town to get money to do an assessment of the elementary schools, and at that time, that included the middle school because we don't have the MSBA approval yet. So Lindsay is putting out the RFPs to get somebody to give us an assessment on the elementary schools, which
We did.
we did.
We voted on the vendor to use.
Yeah, so we did select the vendor. So, good facility stuff happening.
Okay. And Mr. Giliducci, do you have anything?
No, we didn't have a meeting this month, so I'll have a report next month.
So, the next item we have on the agenda is a citation for Elizabeth Sullivan, retiring after 33 years as an administrative assistant.
Wow.
And I'll read the citation. At a meeting of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee on November 13, 2018, a citation was prepared, signed by members of the committee, and voted inscribed on the permanent records. Citation. Whereas Elizabeth Sullivan served as an administrative assistant for the Somerset Public Schools and the Somerset Berkley Regional School District for the past 33 years, and whereas she faithfully and conscientiously performed her duties on behalf of the students and staff at Somerset High School and Somerset Berkley Regional High School, an individual with integrity and high standards who always puts the needs of students and staff first, and whereas she fulfilled her duties with the utmost attention to detail and a steadfast commitment to excellence, earning the respect of colleagues, students, and staff, be it hereby resolved that the members of the Somerset Berkley Regional School Committee commend Elizabeth Sullivan in the official minutes recording this expression of appreciation and gratitude to an honored professional of the Somerset Berkley Regional School District and extending best wishes for good health and happiness in her retirement years. So I will entertain a motion to adopt the citation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Field, seconded by Mrs. Gagliotti and Mr. Giliducci. Is there any discussion? Absent of discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I'd ask everybody to sign before leaving this evening. Do we have a separate sheet, please? Or
I didn't see that.
Next item on the agenda is to recognize our students of the month for October. Caitlin Belanger, Business. Mackenzie Quinn Brophy, Social Studies. Hannah Driscoll, Music. Grace Doobie, Engineering. Emily Euling, Art. Autumn Hitchens, Science. Liam Martin, Mathematics. Adam Oman, Engineering. Kate Saber, English Language Arts. Chloe Souza, Wellness, and Owen Teasdale, World Languages. So congratulations to all of them. Next item, approval of minutes of prior meetings. We have the minutes of the open session of October 18th, 2018. We'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Larrabee and seconded by Mrs. Gagliardi. Is there any discussion on the minutes? In the absence of discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'll abstain.
So we have 5 in the affirmative, no one opposed, and Mrs. Field abstains. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting.
Bless
Do we have any items that fall into that category? Okay. Action items for future meetings? Anyone have any items for a future agenda?
Just by way of update, the maintenance plan task force will be meeting again. Lindsay, do we have that date set?
Yes.
It's the last week of the month.
Yes.
27th.
So our goal is to review the draft that Lindsay and Carlos have prepared, and then we will bring that forth to the school committee for review.
So we'll also have, that's going to be December 6th now, so we will have possibly a report from the student, from the superintendent for his evaluation, progress report. And would we possibly have the additional information on the student activity accounts to look at?
Yes, we have several items that we deferred. We have the employee handbook. Yeah, the NEASC update, presumably, although maybe not, because we were told, well, no, we've changed the meeting date, so now the principal may be available. We'll have to check. We'll have some more, we may have some more policy issues, so we will have a full agenda on that evening. All right. So, we had, under executive session items, we had listed the deployment of security personnel and devices or strategies with respect thereto. Since the superintendent is not here this evening, I don't think there's a need to take up that topic tonight. Is there reason to enter executive session to discuss, the status of the AFSCME paraprofessional unit contract?
We do have one update.
Okay.
Around.
So I'm going to excuse myself from that discussion. So the final item on our open session agenda is public input. Is there any public input this evening? I would just mention under public input, one of the other sessions that I attended on school law, the attorneys who were present said that any school committee that entertains public input is crazy, that they strongly advise against public input. That really didn't move a lot of school committee members who were present listening, because, but it does raise the concern that of the possibility that people come out and raise issues that really aren't appropriate for discussion in open session. So that's something we have to be aware of and concerned of. Some committees require people to give notice in advance of the topic that they want to discuss. Some committees require people to sign at the beginning of the meeting that they have public input in the topic that they want to discuss it. I'm not advocating for any change in our policy, but I just wanted to mention that was another one of the interesting. There are some other issues that were also raised during the course of that, because they had, the other side of that was the person who'd been the chief enforcement officer for the Ethics Commission for many years, who's now a deputy commissioner, and he raised some excellent points that we need to discuss at a future meeting. For example, there are possibly ethics issues with respect to GoFundMe pages. There are possible ethics issues with respect to teachers chaperoning trips where they receive a free trip for chaperoning the trip. So not that that can't be done, but there may be some disclosure issues about it. So those are things that we need to address at a future meeting.
Well, one of the ones that you bring up, GoFundMe, the policy subcommittee is looking at that in conjunction with fundraising. So.
Right, but we're looking at perhaps some pre-approval or something like that. The issue with the Ethics Commission is the wording of the GoFundMe page to make it absolutely clear that the funds are being raised for the students and the school district and not for the individual teacher. And the individual actually suggested that in every instance, this Ethics Commission should be contacted and just given an opportunity to review the presentation as to how it's going to be posted. So, all right. So with that, I need to sign this. I'm going to ask Mr. Larrabee to.
I'm assuming we're not returning to open session.
Correct.
So pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, paraprofessional unit, because discussion in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the committee's bargaining position, and the chair so declares. The purpose of this executive session is to discuss the item I just mentioned, and we will not be returning to open session. By roll call vote, Mr. Gilladucci?
Aye.
Mrs. Field?
Aye.